G'day there guys, Marky here, and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. I do hope you enjoyed today's stories. Now sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the barbie, let's get right into it. Posted by user throwra not my dad 113, titled, Would I be the asshole if I asked my stepdad to walk me down the aisle instead of my dad? When I, 28 female, was 4 years old, my dad cheated on my mum with his now wife, and mum divorced him. She got 50-50 on the custody. I hated going to my father's house because I didn't want his wife to tell me what to do. My dad reduced his time when he got married. I was 6 at the time and wasn't even invited to his wedding, but his stepkids were. His excuse was that I'm still bitter and will ruin the ceremony. Over time, he only paid just the child support, and I was completely neglected. When my dad had my half-brother, he was busy with him and ignored me. He stopped taking me to his house for the weekends. He would ignore me, he would tell me that he wouldn't talk to me unless I act like a good child, aka call my stepmom Mum rather than her name. He would make excuses not to take me to ice cream or do any activities. There was a time when I graduated elementary school and he promised that he and I will go fishing. He ghosted me and told my mum there was an emergency. I was again abandoned. By that time, my mum started dating my stepdad, Lenny. Lenny was the father that I never had. He was a single dad, but still treated me like his own child. He taught me how to swim, how to drive my car. He attended all the school functions that I was in. He was there every time my dad abandoned me. I went very low contact with my dad, only contacting him on Christmas. I don't even call him on Father's Day. So fast forward to now, I'm getting married. I've asked Lenny to walk me down the aisle because he is the only dad I have ever known. My dad and his family will be coming as guests. This infuriated my dad. He told me I am his only daughter. I shouldn't keep him away from his rights as a father. I'm getting calls from his side of the family too. My father is upset and I'm sidelining him. According to him, he has been a great father and I am being unfair to him. Also, he doesn't want Lenny to walk me down the aisle at all. I told my dad he can walk his stepdaughter down the aisle and he will only be a guest. I've made my decision. He called me an asshole and told me he didn't pay child support just so that I could grow up to be an ungrateful brat. So, was I wrong? I know he's my dad, but I just don't feel like he is. No, because at the end of the day, OP, this is your wedding, and you dictate what happens at your wedding. Too bad, so sad that he doesn't want Lenny to walk you down the aisle at your wedding. He can shut up. You know what, OP, I don't want you having a flower girl at the wedding, but my request is just as much stupid as his is, because I don't get a say in your wedding. The fact that his family is attacking you only further solidifies my opinion that they know what he did to you as a child, they know he abandoned you, but they choose to side with him regardless and will back him up in their crusades of tyranny. I think the best thing to do in this instance is just to uninvite them. That will make you more of an asshole in their eyes, but it would make things much easier for you on your wedding day. But for how the situation is currently, I'm gonna go not the asshole. In the comments, the last word 63 says, just tell him he's still bitter and will ruin the ceremony. Uninvite him. Edit to add, definitely not the asshole. OP could also tell him that he may have been a good dad, it just wasn't to OP, and the only one who was acting like a brat is the one who was supposed to be the father. I wouldn't tell him that. Walking your daughter down the aisle is a privilege, not a right. He may have fathered her, but he sure as hell wasn't a good dad. Not the asshole at all. My wife chose not to have her father walk her down the aisle, as she has a similar relationship with him as you describe. It isn't his right to walk you down the aisle because he donated some DNA. You owe him nothing. Seems like Lenny has earned that right. Get Lenny, your father, to walk you down the aisle. Sperm Man can do one. Have a wonderful and magical day. Maybe throw back at the dad that if he'd done more than the bare minimum of paying child support, then maybe he'd have earned the right to walk OP down the aisle. Some ego if he thinks he can be a suck-ass failure of a father to her and still give her away. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Your wedding day is about you and your partner. You need to feel comfortable and confident, not go around appeasing other people's wishes and desires. It's their job to put those aside and prioritize you. If they can't do that, that's on them. I think it's lovely that you're honoring your stepdad Lenny this way. He's been there for you time and time again, and he will appreciate this more than you think. I'm sure the symbolism of this decision is a little painful for your dad, but it is what it is. He was absent and didn't make much of an effort, and now he's shifting the blame on you. Not okay. Don't feel bad. He was the adult who could have made things right with you a long time ago. In short, you do you and enjoy your special day however you want. Update. Sorry guys, I didn't get the time to respond to replies, but I did read them in my spare time. I am currently at the airport waiting for our plane to our honeymoon, so I thought I should give you an update. And I got married 2 days ago. I can say that I am relieved to know that people don't think that I am doing the bad thing. So I did just that. I just texted my dad that I'm not changing my decision. If he wants to come to my wedding, he can. I am not going to force him. That didn't work. He called my mum and asked to talk to me about this situation. I was hoping he would drop this, but no. He had to act like an entitled person. I wrote him a long-ass message. I did not want to talk to him without getting interrupted. My dad interrupts a lot. I told him to give me one good reason that I should let him walk me down the aisle when he's never been a dad in my life. He never cared enough to make his marriage work with Mum, and he decided to betray her and our family. Despite all of that, I still loved him, but every time he left me and abandoned me. Lenny has been my dad growing up. I doubt he even knows anything about me. He's just some guy who used to pay my child support and with whom I share DNA. He is nothing like my dad because he missed all of the big events in my life. He never cared or even tried to be there for me, and he has the audacity to call me his daughter. Since he didn't do his fatherly duties, I don't think I should do any of my daughterly duties towards him. How can he possibly think he could give me away when he already gave me away 20 years ago? A few minutes go by, and then he calls me and asks me if this is what I've thought about him my entire life. I asked him where he was when I was graduating. Where was he when I won my first prize in a dancing competition? Where was he when I needed someone to guide me? I dare him to tell me one thing about me. How much does he know me? When was the last time he initiated any conversations with me? He went silent. He asked me if I was still mad about the past. I told him the past was the reason I know that he is an unreliable man. All these years, if he has taught me anything, is that he is a shitty father and someone like him cannot be trusted. I made the biggest mistake of my life believing he would come through. The only reason I never even bother is because of what he did in the past. Lastly, I will not push him to come to my wedding. That is his choice. It's not he who is paying for it anyways. That was it. Later I got a message from my stepmom that what I said has broken my father. He is very much upset. I told her, well, if he's upset by the truth, then he shouldn't have asked and pushed my buttons. He has ignored me all my childhood. He doesn't get to play the dad. My wedding went smoothly. I would say majority of my father's side of the family bailed. I had my mum's side and some of Lenny's family as well, but overall it was fine. I cannot be more thankful to Lenny, though it still hurts getting betrayed by my own dad, but I'm okay. My kids will know Lenny as their grandfather. In the comments, Hemanucha says, quotes, he went silent. He asked me if I was still mad about the past. Good grief. Way to try and shift the blame to the victim. What a jerk he is. A good friend of mine didn't have her father walk her down the aisle. She had her mother do it. Her dad was invited to the wedding, but he was just another guest. You did the right thing. OP says, he didn't come. In a way, I'm glad that he and his wife skipped it because I would be worrying about his sulking face. Just a thought, but have you thought about asking Lenny to adopt you? Adult adoptions are a thing. I adopted my used-to-be stepson when he was 23. OP replies, never really thought about it. Lenny is married to my mum, so it never occurred to me that I needed to be adopted. He always treated me like his child. He basically adopted me, but we never finalized the papers. I've contemplated it with my stepdad as a Father's Day present or for his birthday. I say do it. Like I said above, It's worth it and sends a strong message to your stepdad that you are his and he is yours. Family isn't always blood. It's who steps up and takes that responsibility and gives love for no other reason than that there is love there. Final update. It's been a long time. I am here with an update. I'm not sure how many of you remembered my last post. First and foremost, I am pregnant. I am really excited about my pregnancy. My mum and stepdad have been really happy. I was no contact with my dad after the wedding. From my mother, I came to know that he wanted to contact me. I don't know what excuses he has now. My mum didn't give me his number or any contact information. I guess he heard about my pregnancy and wanted to contact me. I haven't heard from him, but I heard from my aunts that he's been devastated since the wedding. He wanted to come to my wedding, but he wasn't sure if I wanted him there. I mean, even if he's not walking me down the aisle, I still wanted him at my wedding. They've been pushing me to talk to my dad and at least hear him out. I don't think I can. He has been pining over the fact that he will not get to see his first grandchild. He is very upset and he cries all the time. My stepmom also called me from a different number to persuade me to talk to him. She says that I'm breaking their family by being petty and I should just let it go. My father is so sorry for everything. Well, I responded in a very mean manner in which I sort of regret. I told her, "You mean like you broke my family 20 years ago by sleeping with my father?" She says I'm being bitter about things that happened 20 years ago. It wasn't just 20 years ago, it was 20 years of neglect and countless therapy sessions. Some wounds just don't heal. They are so severe that you have to amputate that part of you forever. But I don't think she understood anything I said. My father has other biological children. Since he was there for them all the time, maybe he should seek them out to give him grandchildren and not the forgotten daughter that he threw away because he prioritized his dick over her. Sorry for this long rant, I'm just a bit emotional, and someone suggested that I should ask my stepdad to adopt me. I'm happy to say that we are in that process. As for my sperm donor, maybe someday I'll have it in my heart to forgive him, but not now. Maybe that day will never come. In the comments, Cashews for the win, am I right? Says, "Good for you for continuing to stand up for yourself and now your family. He wasn't there for you when you cried for so many years, so why the hell are you expected to turn around and parent him 20 years later? It's not your fault his delusions of what his family looks like is now broken because he was entirely absent and now must acknowledge the consequences of his actions. Keep him away from your kid, and I wish you a lifetime of peace." Guys like your dad and my dad want to do the bare minimum and then waltz in like a long-lost hero returning from war. They only want the public accolades, not a real relationship. It's all about how he looks to others. Narcissists are going to narc, no matter what you do. They want the spotlight and that's it. The nerve of the homewrecker accusing you of breaking up their family. OP says, "It was kinda hilarious to hear her gasp as if I accused her of murder." Quotes, "How can he possibly think that he could give me away when he already gave me away 20 years ago?" This has got to be one of the best lines of the year. I remember the first update. How can the deadbeat dad be so oblivious? He has a vision in his head of how the past went, and to him, it's not him abandoning his daughter, it's her refusing to be a part of his new family. And that vision includes getting the role of grandpa. OP should go no contact with everyone trying to convince her to talk to her sperm donor, and I'm glad she's getting Lenny to adopt her. My response to the dad's affair partner would have been a lot harsher. Right? When she told OP that this was breaking her family apart, I straight up would have been like, well then, since it's so hard, maybe you should go home wreck another family. You seem to be the expert in that. The thing is, if OP's dad had stepped up, had been there, had supported his kid even after stepping out on her mum, I'll bet OP would be willing to forgive. But he didn't. OP is right to exclude him. He wasn't there when she needed him most. It honestly kinda shocked me that she invited him to her wedding in the first place, especially considering he didn't invite her, when she was a 6-year-old child, to his wedding. The effing audacity of some people, and all of these family members telling her that her sperm donor is crying all the time because of how bad he feels about it all. Good. He should feel bad. When people F up and hurt others, they should feel bad. That is super not her responsibility though. And I guess, just to wrap this one up, I am very much in agreement with these comments. What are these family members hoping to achieve by harassing OP, once again saying, oh my god, your sperm donor keeps crying, he keeps having mental breakdowns, you need to do something about this? At this point, are those people just being willfully ignorant about the reality of the situation here? Like, damn, this man really ain't handling well the harvesting of the seeds that he sowed. So you need to do something about this, man. No. I'm going to sit back and laugh at him because he's finally realizing how much of an asshole he's been. Maybe after he's done processing it all, we can talk about reconciliation and making things right. But for now, let him be. Anyway, congratulations OP on the pregnancy, on the adoption process going through, and I hope the future continues to be bright for you. Our next post is by user Xiao Mundal, titled, My dad begrudges spending money on me. My 24 female parents split up when I was 9 years old. They were teenagers when they had me, and I remember their relationship wasn't always the greatest when they were together. Lots of arguments and shouting. When they split, I stayed with my mother, 42 female, in the house they had bought together, whilst my dad, 41 female, moved away to live with a friend of his, Mike. That was a lie. Mike was actually Emma, who he'd been seeing whilst he was still with my mum. Dad eventually married Emma, but then they divorced a few years later. He's now with another woman, Jane. After my parents split, my dad didn't bother to see me for months and paid nothing towards my mum to help take care of me. He later tried to have us kicked out from the house so he could redecorate it and sell it, despite my mum and I having nowhere to stay. Eventually, mum found us a rented place nearby to live in. We lived there for nearly 10 years, during which time my dad finally started to visit me and also pay child support, though very reluctantly. He was unwilling to help my mum in other ways. One time, my school shoes had been ruined when the weather had been consistently bad for weeks and my mum couldn't afford a new pair. So my dad gave her the money and then skimmed it off the next child support payment. I should note here that my dad is an engineer and has always earned at least $10,000 a year more than my mum, who is a secretary. For most of my teenage years, my mum was on less than $20,000 a year while supporting the both of us. My dad's ex-wife was also an engineer, and his current girlfriend earns somewhere along the lines of $22,000. Even though he earned more, my dad begrudged having to pay for me. Whilst he was with his ex-wife, I was rarely invited to any outings. When I was 13, he stopped putting my name on Christmas and birthday presents to family members and insisted that I now had to get my own. Since I obviously didn't have a job or an allowance, this usually fell on my mum or other family members to pay for. For my 18th, he proposed to take me to Glasgow for a Comic-Con there, but it was cancelled. I can't remember the exact reason, but I believe it was because a celebrity that we were hoping to meet had cancelled attending. Either way, I never got an 18th birthday present as he offered no replacement. A similar thing happened for my 21st. He booked to take me to the Warner Bros. Studio tour in London, but then convinced me to cancel a couple of weeks before we were due to go due to the bad weather for driving down. The weather turned out to be fine. We were supposed to rebook when the COVID pandemic hit, and he's occasionally mentioned rebooking the trip since restrictions have lifted, but he's yet to make any plans, and I doubt he will fulfill this, just like my 18th. He's also recently stopped paying for me if we go for something to eat. I wasn't too bothered by this, as I'm in my 20s, until recently, when I realized he had only stopped paying for me once I decided to attend uni. I only started attending when I was 21, and whilst I was working from the ages of 17 to 21, he always paid for me. Now that I have my student loan, I pay for myself, and a few times he's convinced me to pay for his and his girlfriend too. I don't know if this is because he thinks I have some surplus of money, because I really don't. I pay rent, my phone bill, commute expenses, etc. Recently, I've been very short on money. I've started my master's degree, and the loan is a lot less. Not to mention, I work in a pub that's rather quiet, so I only have 1 or 2 shifts a week, and that money typically pays for my commute or my lunches that week. When he asked if I wanted to go for something to eat one weekend last month, I knew I wouldn't be able to afford it, so I turned it down, and he didn't offer in any way to spot me one time. Where we were going, it would have cost around £15 max to help me out one time, and I would have offered to pay him back once I had the money. The boiling point this year was last week, when his girlfriend admitted to me that they hadn't bought me anything that I'd asked for Christmas. This wouldn't bother me, except I'd asked for 3 books that I desperately wanted to read. Her excuse was that they were budgeting, so they had to buy presents earlier on, but I sent them my list in October, and one of the books was £7. If he had gotten me that, and only that, I would have been happy. I want to read it. Instead, I'm getting a bunch of things that I don't want or need. They always get me makeup that goes to waste. It's especially frustrating this year, as I've gone out of my way to pay for extra postage to get their Christmas presents on time. And I got them things that they asked for, yet they can't even return the favor for me? My dad did have an accident this year with his hand that put him out of work for a while on sick pay, and he's been on strike a lot, as I suspect a lot of people have. So I understand that he's shorter on money this year, but again, one of the books was £7, and this is without even mentioning the fact that he has a brand new car, a made-to-order BMW, that he just got a couple of months back, and a 4-bedroom house. At my undergrad graduation, he was bragging about all of this to my mum, the same woman that he couldn't be bothered helping to raise me for years. I can't even bring this up to my dad if I wanted to. He always turns things around on me as if it's my fault. When I was 16, I was upset that every time I saw him, we would just go into town and wander around bored for ages, while he ignored a lot of what I was saying. When I told him about this, he said it was my fault because I never gave any ideas for alternative plans. Another time, he berated me until I was crying when I had mentioned we rarely talk because it was my responsibility to get in touch with him, ignoring how he rarely got in touch with me. It's just incredibly frustrating, especially as he plays the doting father of the year in front of others. I'm at the point now where I don't care much for him. I'm tired of being seen as some kind of financial burden, and I don't see why I should have to keep forking out to make sure he gets what he wants for Christmas and birthdays and whatever, when he can't do the same in kind for his own child. I'd rather spend my time and energy on the parent who has always been there for me, not the dad who only occasionally decides he wants to be one. This might sound bratty, especially the money and presents, but it's nearly 16 years in the making, and I am very tired. I just needed to vent this somewhere, as my dad will likely never change, and bringing it to him directly is something that I'm not mentally prepared for. Update. Around 9 months ago, I posted here about money issues surrounding my dad. The TLDR is that my dad just does not like spending money. He's promised me these big presents over the years and cancelled them without making plans to rearrange or to get something else, and begrudged getting me a £7 book that I really wanted last Christmas because they were budgeting. For Christmas last year, one of the presents he got me was a pack of baubles. Not proper ones, but cheap plastic things with Harry Potter stickers on them. He also got me a cheap Primark version of an Oodie, also Harry Potter. It just goes to show how little he knows about me. I'm not nearly as obsessed with Harry Potter as I was when I was 14, because I've grown up, and because I disagree with JKR's views. If he had bothered to know me or listen to me, he would know this, and would have realized I'm more into A Song of Ice and Fire, and Lord of the Rings, and video games now. He should also know that a pack of baubles isn't an appropriate Christmas present. Quite literally, everyone who has heard about this has questioned it or called it pathetic. The only people defending it are my dad and his girlfriend. One of the things that I mentioned in my previous post was that he had bought tickets to the Warner Bros. Studio tour in London for my 22nd. The trip got cancelled because of COVID, and then he never rebooked it. Well, my mum and her boyfriend David, fake names in case someone finds and recognizes this, got annoyed with his empty promises and ended up paying for me and her to go together. I wasn't all that bothered about not going anymore, though the combined disappointment from him and also the reasons mentioned above, but we still went and I had a great day out. My dad wasn't happy. He always had a sour face and a noticeable dip in his mood whenever it was brought up, and he was very uninterested in my pictures when I showed them to him. If he was so annoyed that my mum took me in the end, he should have made plans to take me instead of leaving me in limbo. The real problems arose this summer. I was asked to dog sit for him over 2 weekends in August. The second time was for a cruise that he and his girlfriend Jane were going on. I should note that Jane won the cruise through her job, so they didn't pay for it. At the time, I was only working 1 shift a week and had to take that shift off in order to be free to dog sit for them. My job is cash in hand, so I wasn't paid at all that week. When my dad and his girlfriend returned, they didn't offer me any payment or even bring back something small. I'm not really even bothered about the payment, but some acknowledgement to the fact that I took time off work, missed out on wages, and looked after their dog and their house for a weekend would have been nice, even if it had just been a keyring or a magnet. When my nan pointed out that it was wrong of him to not offer me payment, my dad said they had bought food for me. Wow, good job feeding your daughter whilst she dog sits for you. Father of the Year. Before they went away, my dad mentioned that he wasn't seeing my nan and granddad, his parents, for a while because they never come to see him. Not only did this upset because it caused upset with them, but it also meant that he had an excuse to not see me. We only ever went to my nan and granddad's when he came over to see me, and he didn't bother seeing me at all from the start of July, besides when I was dog sitting, which just shows me that he doesn't want to see me either. Things came to a head in mid-September. Jane texted me to say that since no one in the family had invited them to any Christmas dues, they would be staying home. They added that they wouldn't see me until my birthday, so I wouldn't see my dad or my grandparents at all unless I made arrangements. When I spoke to my grandparents, they said they hadn't invited them to anything because it was only September and they weren't even thinking about Christmas, which is completely understandable. It annoyed me more that my dad got Jane to message me instead of doing it himself. He's a coward. I ended up getting annoyed enough that I sent a long text detailing a lot of these problems to him. I will admit that I got snippy with him and did swear a bit, and I called him pathetic after his response, where he said, "I'm sorry you feel that way," and "you're entitled to your own opinion," instead of a proper response. I blocked him and Jane on Facebook and WhatsApp, but I didn't block their numbers. Jane later sent me a very long response message, during which she tried to guilt-trip me over the baubles because apparently she bought them, saying, "Clearly I need to stop buying Christmas presents," and then over wanting to be paid for the dog sitting as she thought that it was just something nice family does for each other. She contradicted herself later by claiming that she and my dad were planning on doing something for me this month to say thank you, which I don't believe for a second. Jane also said that she and my dad were in such dire straits with their finances last year that they almost lost their house. My reaction was to wonder, then why does my dad have his brand new made-to-order BMW? Why does Jane have a BMW? Why do they need a 4-bedroom house that they can't afford when there's only 2 of them living there? I understand my dad and his accident, but he can't brag about these things to me and my mum and then say that they're in debt. And if they were in such bad straits, they should have told me. I would have understood and told them not to bother getting me anything. I'd rather have nothing than people going into debt for me or getting me shit I don't want. I got very angry with Jane though, as she was the one to send me the message. She claimed my dad tried to send it on WhatsApp, but he was blocked. But I haven't blocked his number, so he could have texted me. Instead, he let his girlfriend do it after I had a go at him for letting his girlfriend do his dirty work for him in my initial text. I called him out on this, and did call both of them pathetic. Her response was that he was at work, so I didn't bother replying again. I'd had enough, and knew that I would say something awful. A lot of people are against me cutting them off for good. Even my mum thinks that it would be best to talk to him face to face and at least be on Christmas and birthday card basis. However, when my grandparents asked him about the situation, he summarized it as I sent a message full of bad language where I was upset I didn't get good enough presents and that he doesn't give me enough money. That killed any desire to talk to him at all. He completely glossed over how unwanted and unappreciated he makes me feel, how he brags about his amazing life and victimizes himself constantly. He's a narcissist, and I'm done with him. I do feel bad for him in some aspects, as he's a much better dad than what some people get stuck with, but I'm also so done. If I come across as bratty or selfish, then that's fine. I just don't want anything to do with him anymore. And you know what, OP? I raise a glass to you on that one. I think that you should go no contact if you can and want to, though I think the best thing for your sanity in this scenario would just be very low contact. He's obviously a dickhead and is just going around looking for fights, looking to cause shit, looking to brag about all his wealth, but as soon as you turn around and ask him for anything, he gaslights you and is like, actually, I'm in debt. How dare you ask me for money? I am basically on the poverty line. This is just someone that we don't waste our time with in life. We get our own money, we move on with our lives, and we let them reach out to us if we want to, but as soon as they start shit like this, you ping-pong them away like the scum they are. Just having the self-awareness of, my time is worth more than dealing with your shit, sets you free in a lot of situations like this. Sure, it can come off as callous and heartless, especially to other family members that they will spin stories to, but I think you just have to polish your spine and continue standing up for yourself and doing what is best for you and your mental health. If that results in you going completely no contact with him and a bunch of family members that will defend him, that's probably for the best, but that is something for you to decide, and I wish you all the best of luck in the future dealing with this. Anyway, that's where I'm going to end this episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.